I'm here with Elder Freddie Johnson. When somebody comes to your center, what is it that you are able to offer them that helps them to heal from that trauma? I know that you do a lot of traditional ceremony.
Okay, what we had to do was go back. I went to the mountain fasting, and when the grandfathers came, that's a difference from residential school to our culture. The grandfathers come, and we can see them. I know many people wouldn't believe that, but I've seen a lot of things and experienced a lot of things.
Mhm.
And so when you see culture's open. That spirituality is one thing. Eating the proper food, like the roots and the berries and the wild meat.
Mhm.
So that's what we offer here. We try to bring them back to the natural medicine. And the natural medicine is everything. When you eat the plants,
Mhm.
Mother Earth puts nutrients in those plants.
Mhm.
Aromatherapy, like when we have culture, we have sweat lodge, we
Mhm.
use aromatherapy.
Mhm.
You know, when the psychologist is trying to read you, we'll call it that. I know there's probably psychologists going to be there when they're trying to read you. Aromatherapy can get into that trauma where words can't.
Yes. Right.
When you're doing um, the body therapy, massage,
Oh, massage, yes. Mhm.
you know, the touch of the different parts of the body
Mhm.
releases that pain and you remember.
Yes.
Sometimes the words, like if I'm sitting there and I'm working with a psychologist, his words go right by it.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Right.
Work on the body, or you work with aromatherapy, or you work with water,
Mhm.
working with smoke. That
Mhm.
gets into your brain where words can't. Where
Yes.
compassion. The natural compassion is in the medicine, in all everything.
Right.
So when you come here, you learn about that. You know, it's not this talk. You know, talk's good, but talk's only just a little. You know, on the medicine wheel. Look for a medicine wheel. No medicine wheel. But when you look at the medicine wheel, there's 4 parts:
Mhm.
the mental, and the emotion, physical, and the spiritual.
Mhm.
You know, whenever you work with the mental, you improve in the other parts. You're working on the spirit, the other. It all works the same. That's what we do here is work on the whole medicine wheel. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
and people in the sweat lodge will tell you stuff that you can't tell a psychologist.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, because he feel. You know, when I tell people, oh, the eagle came into the sweat lodge, they all look scared. I'm like, oh, well, I was scared too when it came. You
Mhm.
know, and it's a hard concept to explain or to display to
Mhm.
society because they look at you sideways and wonder, is this man hallucinating, or because there's many ceremonies across North America, different ceremonies, not only sweat lodge. There's going to the mountain. There's others. I wouldn't even name them because it's not mine.
Mhm.
The people that do those ceremonies can talk about it, but I can't talk about that. I can talk about the sweat because I did that. I can talk about the mountain because I experienced it
Right.
for 20 years going to the mountain. Every 4 years, you go 4 days every 4 years, or every year for 4 years. So you go on
Okay.
be 16 times you'd go up there.
Okay.
And and when you're alone, you can see and problem solve better when you're all alone. And the grandfathers come like they come.
Mm-hmm.
We have our altars set up and we have colors. We use tobacco dyes, cloth and tobacco, and we dye it to protect us. They can come, but they can't, come under you. Like
Right.
you can see them over there. Animals come.
Mm-hmm.
Grizzly comes, man, that's scary. That's scary when they're right there,
I bet.
10 feet away, and they're there. And you can't tell if that's a real grizzly or a spirit grizzly, because they're.
Uh,
And
right.
so when they come, they test you out to see if you'll run away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the ceremony, is to be, to know your limits,
Mm-hmm.
and know when the elder tells you you stay there no matter what comes, you have faith in that elder.
Right.
And
Right.
so when we take our clientele to the sweat lodge, we talk to them and explain, something might come. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be alarmed. This is what usually happens here.
Right.
And what we believe, the grandfathers or the spirits come to help us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the healing. When I say I don't want to talk about blame, it's because the spirits come and they counsel you.
So when you were in residential school, you were being disconnected from your culture, from your family, from your community, from yourself, from your feelings. And so the healing that you're doing is really a way to connect again.
Hmm.
Is that how you would say that?
Yes,
Like to become whole?
to become wholesome again, because residential school was breaking you down, like they
Mm-hmm.
break you down.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I never knew, like my tribe is a huge tribe. I never knew. I only knew of Alkali Lake. I
Mm-hmm.
never knew that 500 miles away our tribe goes, our territory.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever taught us that. We learned about Europe. We learned about other countries. We never learned who we were.
Right.
So that disconnect.
Yeah.
And we went to mass, and we learned Latin. Could you imagine? I'm trying to learn English. All of a sudden, I've been taught Latin also.
Right. Right.
Like I can understand some words. I forgot it now, but we used to read the hymn book
Mm-hmm.
in Latin.
In Latin.
We sing in that.
Right.
So they disconnected us, teach us another way of life. And
And that was at the same time as your own ceremonies were outlawed.
yes,
They were against the law.
yes,
Yeah.
in the 80s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We live on I was telling you, we live on this little Indian federal land, 1 mile square. And yet our land is 200 miles around.
Right.
We need a permit to hunt. We need a permit to fish salmon. You know, Last summer I heard you might need a permit to harvest berries. Could you imagine? God give us all these resources.
Yeah.
We have to get a permit. You know, we have horses and cows. This is a Western cowboy thing. We need permits to let our horses go graze out on the land.
Mm.
So residential school is one thing, but British Columbia, government is one thing, and then the federal. So we run under British Columbia law, and we're under federal law.
Right.
You know, so
Colonialism.
Even today, we still suffer.
Yes. Yeah.
They're holding us down.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Mhm. So you mentioned forgiveness.
Yes.
How is that possible given everything that's happened? How do you work with that?
I call this guy my mentor. I wouldn't name his name. My friend asked him, what is forgiveness?
Mm-hmm.
I set up because I want to hear this, because with all the things I'm telling you, I had to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go to heaven if I don't forgive.
Right.
As God knows, Great Spirit knows. Anyway, this is what he said. Forgiveness happens. If you look at a medicine wheel, the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, if you practice all these positive things, there's no room for blame.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't grow with blame.
Right.
Like our center, people come here, they can't grow if they hold blame on their parents or institution or, whatever it is. All the negative stuff, we can't go forward. We're going to get our land back, but we can't get our land back if we blame. But if we look positive, we talk about our land, it's our land. We don't say, oh, it's federal land, or it's, we don't talk like that. That's our land.
Right.
Yeah, they're using it, but there's laws that protect us, but I don't think the forester companies know that we're protected.
Right.
If we keep some data, you took out 10 million, we have to give us some of that money.
Right.
You can't get away with it.
There's been a lot of injustice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look what's happening down there now, back east. I don't even want to mention where the trouble is, but do you have treaties? What's going on? What's the treaty mean?
Mm-hmm.
People are being shot at and been arrested, and
And I'm in Nova Scotia, where they're having the trouble with lobster fishing right now.
Yeah. And we have troubles in British Columbia too.
Yeah.
But we always know this. In truth, you can't lie the truth. They can lie under paper, but one day they're going to have to, be truthful. So when you talk about blame and other things, there's no room for, So when a client come here, we work with them and tell them, well, this happened. Okay, yeah, okay. We have a history,
Right. So one of the things that I find is really hard to work with is shame. Especially with addiction, we're so shamed for having an addiction, and we feel shame for the things we've done. How does that work for you at the center, for you personally?
I'm just thinking.
It's okay.
I guess when I dealt with my shame, with my abuse, lots of abuses in residential school, mentally, emotional, physical, spiritual, sexual.
Yeah.
When I look at all those, and I look at when I you get strapped there, you stand there like this, and they're whipping you with a leather, 2 inches wide and quarter inch thick, and they jump
to
Like
really,
they're not just doing this, they jump with all their might, and you're there, and this is just red and swollen.
yeah.
We never cried. We never give them the pleasure.
Mm.
I don't know where it come from when you're 6 years old, but it came from, somewhere. You can beat me, but I'm not going to let you see me cry.
Mm.
So when you talk about shame and the people that did that on our bodies,
Mhm.
on our head, on our backs and bum, our
Mhm.
legs, how I overcome that was I went to a trauma training
Mhm.
and realized that today I think it's harder when you're not working on growth. But today, when I work on growth, I look at that priest or that brother that was doing that. That happened to that person.
Right.
And that person, somebody else did that to him.
Mhm.
It came down the line like this to me.
Yeah.
So that rage that he has is not mine. It's only now I can say that, but before I carried rage.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
to say I carried rage. But when I took that trauma training, realized that wasn't mine. It was easier to let that shame go.
Right.
I was going to take off my coat, but I threw it on the floor. I
Mm.
took off my coat of shame. I threw
Ah,
it down.
right.
It's
Right.
not mine. It's that person. And then that's that person.
Yeah.
When I talk about the first prime minister, where did that come from? That you got to look. Where did it come from? It come from somebody
Yeah.
that taught him that.
It was pretty brutal in Europe
And,
for white people. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the people that sat around the table with him,
Right.
where did that come from?
Mm. Mhm.
That when I look at that, then I realize that it's not mine.
So that helps to let the shame move
Yeah,
through and move out.
that's his shame, not mine, but he passed it on to me. But
Right.
now I took off my coat of shame
Right. Right.
so I
Yeah.
could walk forward, you know. So when we sat on the table to get our land back, I want to sit there without shame and without guilt,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. So that's my power. I have my power. Or when you talk community, we have our power,
Right.
you know.
And
And
that you're
you,
not passing that on to your grandchildren.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah.
I talk to them and tell them that, you know, don't let Papa, you know, don't
Mhm.
take whatever Papa's got, you know,
Right.
and explain to them this what happened. Like those children that knelt on the floor and wondered what was going on. I
Yeah.
explained to them that's what they did to us for being too noisy,
Right.
you know. And they're not like that. The school is different here. I went down, I was surprised. They're talking, telling stories in the language to them.
Right.
I felt good for that. I didn't have that opportunity. But you
Right.
know what? My grandparents gave me that opportunity before I went, you know.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
the language and the storytelling came to me and was still in here, even
Yeah.
though I was in a foreign situation.
Mhm.
I held it here.
You had it in your body,
Yeah.
in your heart. Yeah.
So in 1977, when we took training for one-on-one counseling, the company from Alberta,
Mhm.
and he said, tonight we're going to let you talk to the elder. So I went, and I'm still coming from blame, even though I was
Yeah.
training to be a counselor. I'm
Mhm.
coming with blame and shame, guilt. And I told that elder, he beat me at residential school. They took my language. And this is what he said. What are you going to do about it now? It just shocked me. I thought he was going to hold me and let me cry on the shoulder. No, he didn't. He said, what are you going to do about it now? From that moment on, I would speak my language when I would answer the phone. So if you'd call me, I would answer you in Shuswap. And then I'll talk to you and make you feel, not laugh, and I'll say, oh, damn. Okay, I'll talk English.
Right, right, right. So you're really part of what's allowed your community to heal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
when I took that one-on-one counseling and stuff, and there was about 20 of us in our session. There was other sessions that followed. They said only one of you is going to make it to be a counselor,
Oh.
and it was me.
Mm.
I went on and learned more and more.
Yeah.
And I end up doing that kind of work. 40
Mm.
years. Clients come here.
Yeah.
I could tell them I laid in a ditch. I laid in a ditch drunk. 30.
Right.
I didn't even get up to go to washroom. I just laid there and go to washroom.
Right.
So they all kind of look shocked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All wet from going to washroom, and I was too lazy to get up over there. And then when I was in trunk tank, I would tell them I was in a trunk tank. The guy on this side, he went to washroom, and the guy on this side went to washroom, and I can tell them that. That's where I came from.
Right.
I went down. I went to college for 4 years. I'm not saying it didn't mean nothing, but when I was in my addiction, that didn't mean nothing.
Right, right. Yeah.
If people would say, Freddie, you're going to be on a street, I would never believe them, but I ended up on the street, And I always think about that. Maybe the Creator let me experience that because He was going to put me to work somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And here I am. I was supposed to be retired for 5 years now, and I'm still here. But I don't mind,
Yeah,
because I can share my story, the anger, the rage, self-pity, you name it. I can tell them that I did that.
Yeah. And people can see that you've healed. And it's really important for people to have that living example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it took me 2 years to realize that I was 2 years sober, and I nearly got killed. And I look at that and I thought, you have something else for me to do? I realized that I had a job.
Right.
He didn't let me die because I had another job to do.
Right.
And that was to share my story.
Yeah. To help people. Yeah.
To help people and, keep, to talk about the shame and said, it's not yours.
Yeah.
But it's easy to say, but you got to work, you got to help them, not help them, but assist them to do that.
Yeah. What's it like for younger people now in your community, like teenagers and younger adults? Are they healthier? Are they drinking? What's
Okay,
happening?
there's, I think both drinking and doing drugs.
Yeah.
Not all of them. There is some. There's some that don't use.
Right.
And it's a different atmosphere. It's like a more loving atmosphere rather than that rage and guilt. And there's a lot of people that's in wellness, that's which makes it good.
Yes. Yeah.
But there is drinking and there is sucking, But they don't do it like the way we used to do it. We went all out. I mean, they do it, but there's guns and knives, man. When we were our community was in its deepest
Yeah.
guns and knives, stabbings and shootings.
Right.
He drank, but I don't see that.
It's not that level.
It's a different level.
Right. Right.
So, but
Yeah.
I'm always concerned. If your
Yeah.
personality is that to get addicted.
Mm-hmm.
I I have relatives out there on the street sleeping in the cold right now today.
Right.
You know,
That's hard.
and they've suffered that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my nieces told me, I want to quit, but I can't. Should come back. She has children here, right? Like we're looking after one. My daughter's looking after another one, and my in-laws looking after two. So she has 4 children.
Okay.
One died a year ago, stillborn,
Wow.
but she's still out there.
Mm.
She come back. She can only if she lets here 2 days. That's great. Visit her children,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's got to go back. She'll tell you straight, I got to go back. Can't go without drinking or using drugs.
Right.
Like she knows it's no good, but
Yeah.
the chronic
Yeah.
experience is, that's hard, that's difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and she knows we're here, but
Right.
she's not ready to come here. But that's scary because
Yeah.
Williams, I shouldn't even say the name, but that town is so dangerous. Anywhere, I guess, is dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
and things could happen. And
Right.
things happen here in our
Yeah.
vicinity. Bad things,
Right.
shootings, and people disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drugs is pretty serious.
Yeah, it
So
is. Mm. So part of the difference is that now people have you and the recovery center, and there's a lot of people in the community that are reliable and that they could connect with. That's not something you had when you were
no,
younger.
no.
No.
Um, like our leadership is so supportive.
Mm-hmm.
They come here when new clients come.
Oh.
You welcome them to the community, and whenever you need help, they open their arms, and
Mm-hmm.
you know. So they're not just coming here. They're like the leaders know they're here.
Right.
But
Right.
at the same time, there's confidentiality. Okay, you're here. You do your work, but we're here if you need anything.
Yeah.
So it's a very supportive. The community is very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
The different managers are supportive.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and the community uh, runs their own programs with community members or other native people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people are more compassionate. I'm not saying that outside people are not compassionate, but we use our own community people to work, and they're
Right.
trained people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have uh, professionally trained community members, which makes a difference, you
Yep.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know, we have to help each other, support each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they need spiritual support, they call on the people that do the ceremonies.
Right.
You know, when we do pipe, over 20 people. We can't do that now with a
Right. With COVID.
pandemic. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we can't even, like even now, we can't even 6 people. We can
Oh.
when we do pipe, we just pray on their shoulders.
Oh, I see. Right.
We can't smoke it.
Right.
Even with H1N1, we couldn't smoke it,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you just hold it and
Yeah.
you touch people on the shoulders and they pray and you pray. We
Right.
have to find other ways to do it.
Hmm.
The challenge today, like if we go to a major center and we go in a building, you can make smoke
Right.
with the sage or the pipe.
Yeah.
We have to find other ways. Get a bowl of water and just
Hmm.
prayer is
And
prayer.
still connect inside, but not the same
Yeah,
ceremony.
yeah. But we can smoke it like, by
Yourself.
myself, I could smoke it.
Right.
You
Right.
know? But I can't let anybody else smoke it. But they're there, you
Right.
know. So the challenge is there, you know.
Mm.
And
Right.
and like you go to Williams Lake, they don't let you. They tell you straight up front, you can't do any smoke.
Okay.
It's just light in the sage or light in the pipe. What they
Mm.
say it might set off the fire alarm. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
You know, I never seen it happen, but
Right.
I guess they're scared it might. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's challenges in different ways. So, and we just go around it. You know.
Mhm. Well, with so many people being disconnected, with trauma, people feel so alone and like they're not worth anything. So for them to have a place where they can come in a community of people who care, I mean, that's almost the whole thing that they need for healing. Just that caring.
Yes, and you know, again, that's a challenge. The funding for that, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
You
Mm.
if we can get people to believe in, like we've lost so many people, like those
Yeah.
soldiers I was telling you about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I watch this on TV. This guy shot at McDonald's. I think they killed a person.
Uh,
The psychologist came. I'm watching this, and they're helping all the people that witnessed that. In the
right.
community, nobody's coming here.
Right.
That's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much injustice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last week, they told me after 6 years in planning, they have an indigenous court in Williams Lake,
Oh, wow.
where the First Nations people and the Métis
Mhm.
could go to court in the indigenous court. They have a judge there, but they have elders there,
Yeah.
and it's where they're going to do the smoking.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but
Oh,
we have 4 different tribes in our area, so
okay.
you
Hmm.
know, and we've been to residential school together.
Uh,
The 4 tribes.
yeah. Hmm.
So we know our hurts.
Right. Yeah.
3 years ago, 6 of my friends that I went to school with, I'm 70. So they were maybe like in their 60s and they died. Just
Mm.
like if they died.
6. Wow.
When I took trauma training,
Hmm.
I read on the bottom, there was a whole list of things. On the bottom, it said, trauma kills.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
don't need to see anything. You just die from the trauma experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 of my friends just in one, like 6 months died. Like
Oh,
seemed like with no reason.
yeah.
But there
Hmm.
was a reason, trauma,
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
all bottled in here.
Yeah.
They never had that opportunity to take any kind of training,
Hmm.
bottled here, and too much for the body.
It is too much for the body. Yeah.
I
Double
have
sword. Yeah.
I have classmates 70, but when they were 60, in wheelchairs and walkers.
Right.
because he never do any wellness,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and it's bottled in and it comes out on your body. Yeah,
Yeah.
comes
Oh, yeah.
out on,
Yeah.
you know.
It's really hard on our nervous system and our whole body. It's all one system, so it
Yeah,
makes sense that it affects everything. Yeah.
and you give up, like you give up.
Yeah, many people do. So what keeps you going? Why haven't you given up?
A lot of training and um, well, I was telling you, I went to the mountain for 20 years.
Mm,
That
mm,
I had to deal with look at a lot of things,
yeah, yeah.
you know, and just let it go up there, let it go, through prayer and,
Hmm.
ceremony, let it go,
Yeah.
you know.
Freddie was one of the main actors in the documentary The Honor of All about the Alkali Lake Band. He was also asked to go to treatment in the film, which changed a lot of his world.
Did you watch that movie?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, when Andy was giving me heck there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing transformation personally and for the
My
community.
dad was in there. You've seen my dad. That's my dad.
Okay.
It sucked me that he went in there. And my mom said, "Oh, that Freddie. I don't know what's gotten into him." For 50 years, let's see, for 70 years, we've been neglected,
Mm-hmm.
terribly neglected.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's 2020,
Mm-hmm.
finally got a building, finally. People came here from all over the world. We had nothing, nothing.
Oh, okay.
We've been neglected.
Mm.
We don't have no nice buildings. If you come here, we can't even put you up.
Okay.
Not saying we're poor. I guess we just don't have facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And for 200 years, we've been neglected.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting political now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it is a
We're
political
sitting on the,
space.
we're
Yeah.
sitting on the #1 reserve in Alkali Lake,
Mm-hmm.
1 mile square. And yet our territory is 200 miles around. People
Right.
are logging, people are mining, people are taking our fish.
Yeah.
And we have to get permit to fish, to hunt. We can't even log. And
Right.
yet, if you come to Williams Lake, you'll see all the logging trucks going to Williams Lake.
Right.
And none of that monetary not coming here.
Not coming for you. Yeah.
No. So we've been neglected, we've been stolen away, or however you say it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's a bad story.
It is a bad story, isn't it? And
And it's probably like that all over North America.
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
People taking advantage of the first people.
Yeah.
Now, all
Absolutely.
I tell people when I go outside in society, when you meet God, you can lie to him. You can lie to us. You can lie on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't lie to the Creator, and that's how we come. So when you ask about this building, it's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Our chief, Charlene Pellew, got the funding to put this facility here to help people from all over Canada. We
Right.
have people, our people from the community don't even come to this facility.
So it's mostly
Yes.
people from other places.
Yes. And
Oh,
we get to build this building, but the funding there's some funding for the staff and there's no funding for the clientele. So, we have to fund that ourselves.
okay.
So that's
Yeah.
bad. People, I don't want to name any, um, people, people from town or, institutions. They don't put nothing into this. Our community has to fund this.
Right.
We have this nice building, but we fall through the cracks. Like
Right.
people, because of our history of being sober and doing well, they figure we can do this. And we do. We can do this. We have many people that are well,
Hmm.
that are, you know, survive everything thrown at us for the past 200 years.
Right.
We have, we don't blame. That's the main thing. We don't blame. We can, I can tell you some stuff, but we don't want to blame. But we keep working hard, and I know somehow, you know, something good will come our way.
Right.
You know,
So you were around, you were in the community when this all happened, started happening in the 70s. And what was your experience during that time?
I guess we have 3 hours.
We have as much time as you want.
We're going to have a long video at your conference. Yeah, I've been around, born in 1948, after the war. And I've witnessed as a child, the people that came back from the war, they were violent.
Yeah.
When they drank. And you know what? We were outlawed to have alcohol, but somehow we made it and drank. From then on, all hell broke loose, you know.
Right.
So I've seen these violent people, and they all died. All the soldiers died.
Okay.
Some of them were my relatives.
Right.
They died from alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think even today, people, you know, are not diagnosed for, you know, whatever they suffered during the war.
Yeah.
And they drank to get rid of that, what they saw and what they, and for shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no help for them.
Right.
And then they were promised land.
Right.
Never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't like talking about this because it's negative, but
right.
You know, we have to look at it, you know, and
Yeah.
the conference people have to look at that, and it's probably happening in their community, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And so in 1953, had the opportunity to attend residential school. I went for 70 opportunity. I was glad to go. I was happy till I got over there. Different story.
Yeah.
You know. So the hurt of residential school was being taken away from the community, from my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, and my cousins. Well, I was with the weirdest thing. I was over there with community members, never knew them, never knew them.
Oh,
You know, I could look at different people and they say, I went to residential. I don't remember them. I was young and we're all separated. There was juniors, seniors, intermediate, and juniors, and we never interacted. So the seniors would be like 14, 15, 16. As an 8-year-old, 6 years old, I never interacted with them.
Right.
We were cut. We were cut. So whatever, you know, that residential school was designed for, they did their job. You know, I don't know my parents. I don't know my parents. I mean, I know the people that I went to residential school, I had more love for them than my parents.
Right.
Because I was cut from them.
Yeah.
And they were like strangers. I could never tell them, oh, I'm hurt.
Right.
And he would hold me. Nobody holds you when you got hurt. So I was separated from my brothers and sisters.
Right.
And, you know, that you can't even explain the pain that is of that.
Oh, yeah, unimaginable. Yeah.
And you go to that institution, which was 4-story building with 300 students. That pain from going from here, where you had horses and animals and, and you went to an institution where you marched around like little soldiers. We
Right.
did. We marched to school, we marched to eat, we marched back from school. We all knelt down and did the rosary every night.
Okay.
So my Indianness, I shouldn't even be using that term because I'm not an Indian. They're across there in ocean somewhere.
You're
I'm
in
a
India. Yeah.
Swapn, that went to that institute. I said I lied. I said I wasn't going to name anybody, but John A. MacDonald, in his statement, will take that Indian out of that child, and they did.
And they did. Yeah.
I don't
Tragic.
I don't have feelings. I've seen death. I don't have feelings. Today, when you're talking about, well, how is it today? I have to try to get those feelings back. I have to try to bring the tears. I have to try to feel good about myself, to believe in myself, and to be we were never trained to be a good dad, to be a good uncle, to be a good grandfather. We were never, My children probably suffered just as much as I suffered because I passed it to them,
Yeah.
And I said I wasn't going to name names, but this man ran across Canada. He made it halfway, and he died from that cancer. And he said, somewhere
Terry Fox.
Somewhere the hurt must stop. And I wanted to stop with my grandchildren. I don't want my grandchildren to feel that pain, This morning we were praying. Soldiers, we were praying. You know what? Some of my young people can't pray in their language. I can pray in my language.
Yeah.
It'll be 50%, But that was when I see stolen. That we were punished. Our mouth washed and we were hit speaking our language.
For speaking your language, right? Yeah. Yeah, they were very serious.
I was down to school.
Yeah.
I was down to school last week to teaching my grandchildren the language.
Oh, good.
I said, everybody kneel down. So they all knelt down. They're looking at me. I said, you know what? When I was a child, we spoke our language. We had to kneel for hours to stop us from talking.
Punishment. Yeah.
Punishment.
That must have been terrifying.
And if you look all across Canada, probably United States, addiction to all the drugs and alcohol and gambling comes from that.
It's a trauma response.
Trauma.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to feel happy, you go to drink or you go to bingo, or gambling.
Get away from that feeling of being dead inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, in 1953, I went as a 5-year-old. 5
years old.
There was 300 of us there. It's like a slow moving train. The people that were 16 got kicked out, and we came in. When we got to 16, we went on, and it kept going like water.
Yeah.
And that was a systematic, I don't even like to say the word genocide, but I hear people saying that.
Yeah.
They were trying to kill something in us, We didn't make it, because we're still here, right? So when people come to our center here, we look at the trauma. Let's deal with the trauma before even look at addiction.
Yeah.
As it's a trauma, you're trying to
you
smoke or you're putting stuff in your arm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I went there for 7 years. I went there for 3 years. And then I went 3 years to school. Then I went back for 3 years.
Oh,
And then when I graduated in grade 9 in residential school, they sent us to a Catholic school in Prince George.
oh,
And we were still in the system.
that's a long way from home, though.
Prince George from here is like 3 hour drive or
Yeah.
4 hour drive.
Yeah.
No.
Mm.
She mentioned, Lori mentioned the kettle truck.
Yes.
Farm outside, it's 2 below. But could you imagine was 25 below and we're going on the road in the back of a kettle truck?
Yeah.
You know, if you try to tell me, Freddie, you're smart, you're intelligent, I feel like a cow. I feel like a cow in the back of this truck. And you can tell me, Freddie, you can do this. And I said, no, I can't do that. I'm not smart, you know.
Mm.
You don't have to tell me in
So
words.
dehumanizing.
You don't have
Yeah.
to tell me in words about,
Right.
building up myself. I know what the church thinks about me as a resource. I was a resource.
Right.
When you look at the residential school, our First Nations people was a resource, So, yeah, I didn't want to talk negative, but
But it's a
it's there.
horrible. It's
Yeah, it's
horrible
there.
what
Yeah,
happened.
it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I passed it down to my son and my daughter,
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
and they drank,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you about my dad. My dad, my uncles got hung up, tied up,
Oh,
got
dear.
hung up on a post,
Yeah.
and last, harness leather, 7 layers thick, 4 feet long with buckles on each end,
Mm,
speaking their language, and
that's horrible.
for resisting that.
Right.
My uncle described this. He said he got lashed 7 times.
Yeah.
He got hit 3 times. He passed out. He hit him 4 more times. He's passed out already. Why hit him anymore?
Yeah. Exactly.
That
Yeah.
man was carrying something on his back.
Yeah.
Just hit 4 more times.
Yeah.
So I carry that. That's my uncle. I
Right.
carried that. My dad, my uncles did happen to that. That's just my relatives. Imagine the other boys.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I carry that from my family, and I carried rage. When I see that church, there's a different Freddie.
Mm,
I see residential school. The church is separate, but in a little child, it's
yes.
still the
They're
same.
the same.
So we
Yeah.
carry this, and I carried rage. I never knew why. Till I
Right.
heard my uncle.
Right.
I
Yes.
heard my relative talking. My dad said, ask him. And he said, my
Right.
dad couldn't say it, but his friend
Okay.
or my relative or cousin,
Right.
he
Right.
told the story. He was, I don't know if he was ashamed of it or just rageful about it, but he wouldn't talk about it.
Okay. It was too hard.
So
Yeah.
to let that go, and pray for them.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle may talk about it, but my dad, my other uncle couldn't talk about it. They
Right.
were all rageful.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
good people. You were good.
And traumatized.
But if my dad walked in that door, Laurie would be running.
Okay.
Like he had this energy,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
this rageful energy. And I think that's when we look at people that went to residential school, we have this energy that could be rage, shame, guilt, you name it.
Right.
And when they walk in, you feel it,
Yeah.
you know.
And somehow with healing, we have to heal that somehow. Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
it's difficult because they don't want to share that guilt and that shame is so thick.
Yeah.
They're not, you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes the psychologist is not the one that's going to help that person.
Oh. Mhm.
Not saying psychology doesn't work, but I think somebody who's compassionate to what that experience is can help that person.
Yeah.
Be an elder, what they call quill medicine man.
Thank you so much, Freddie, for talking with me and just kind of explaining some of what your experiences were. And I wish so much that it wasn't still going on, that there was justice now at least. And I know there isn't.
There's 200 years bottled up in here
Yeah.
of the people that you're talking about. It's still bottled up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I listened to my friend. He talked about the epidemic that happened nearly 200 years ago, came in the blankets.
Mm-hmm.
And why in our area, when I point this way, I'm pointing west,
Mm-hmm.
10,000 people died.
Oh,
So they cut our population down. They did what they wanted to do. That's what I guess what they're saying.
yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that.
Yeah.
Or let me reword it. I felt that.
Okay.
Now I have to forgive.
Right.
However that came about, however, whatever that was supposed to happen, happened that way.
Yeah.
But we're still here, but they're still exploiting our resources. That's
They
what
are.
they wanted, you know.
Yeah.
They're still exploiting us,
Oh.
and I hope there's government people at your conference could hear that. You're
Mm-hmm.
exploiting us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just take what we need. We don't need to take anything to heaven. You can't take it to heaven anyways.
Exactly.
Let them know that you guys can't take that to heaven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking beyond you.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for this opportunity. I was kind of um, hesitant,
Mm-hmm.
because even our story gets misused, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm hesitant about that. You
Right.
know,
I really appreciate that you talked with me. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Welcome to the 2021 Radical Recovery Summit, presented by the Kilby Center for Recovery. This is Lynn Fraser, your moderator. This year, our theme is Feel It, Heal It, a new paradigm of recovery, featuring a diverse group of thought leaders and innovators, people who are working on the ground in the new field of addiction recovery. Go to radicalrecoverysummit.com to sign up and watch free.